Welcome back to my 10th Zoom series episode of After the Play Ends, Hanging the Cleats Up, the Zoom series where I, Anya Olson, get to have in-depth conversations with retired collegiate athletes and talk to them about what they've struggled with most since graduating. Today, I'm so very excited because I'm joined with my uncle, Steve Napier. You guys might recognize his last name because last week I had his daughter on, Andy Shea. So if you haven't watched that episode, go watch that episode. But this week, I'm so excited to talk to you, Steve.
Right on.
I want to get right into it. Tell me what got you into your sport?
Wow. As a little kid growing up, we did not have cell phones and computers and things like that. So we threw dirt clods at each other and we chased each other and tackled each other and beat the heck out of each other. And whatever sport was in season is the sport that you played in my neighborhood when you were growing up.
That's so interesting. So you played, how many sports did you end up playing for fun?
Well, how many sports did I participate in? Playing them well, that's a whole nother story. I played everything from basketball, baseball, football, soccer. I even played soccer one year. I didn't want to wrestle because they always wanted you to lose weight. And I was always a little guy trying to gain weight. So I didn't do that. But yeah, just track, we did that. I mean, you name it, we did it. Whatever was in season, whatever was the sport, that's what we did.
I love that. And were you gravitated towards any particular sport?
I loved football and baseball, and my dad played pro baseball. So gravitating towards those two sports, that became my passion later on as I got into high school. You kind of get weeded out to a certain extent. Basketball, not a real big demand for a 5-foot, 100-pound point guard as you're walking into your freshman year in high school. So you kind of get weeded out.
Yeah. It led you to the most amazing college ever that you talk about all the time. So what brought you to Point Loma? Tell us about that.
Pure divine intervention, luck, disappointment. So I roll into Fresno State as a freshman. And I know you're on the East Coast, but Fresno State baseball out on the West Coast, it's a pretty big deal. They have an excellent baseball program. Top 20 in the nation every year. And my dad went there, as a matter of fact, and played baseball there and was drafted by the Red Sox. So I think I'm going to go up there. I wasn't recruited and nothing like that. Oh, I'm going to walk on and I'll, make the team, this, that, and the other. I show up that first day. There are 90 guys trying to walk on to this team for maybe one spot. And I rapidly realized I am way out of my league. So, I ended up just going to school that year, and gosh, January, I get a phone call from a family friend saying Point Loma is looking for a shortstop. And they said they would love for you to come down and work out and see what you got. I said, all right. So I try to get my keister in shape real fast, and I go down spring break to San Diego and I work out for the coach, and he says, yes, we'd love to have you. And the rest is history.
Awesome. See, well, I love that because you took a very disappointing moment and you turned it into one of you love San Diego. So it's my favorite thing to talk about because San Diego is amazing. That's where I'm from, as all you guys know. So
those are the worst words you could ever say. San Diego is where I'm from.
Oh yeah.
Worst words.
Draws so much attention to me. But I think it's awesome that turned something upside down and you ended up at a great school. And you also played with your brother at Point Loma.
Correct.
So what was that experience for you guys? Was there a lot of riffraff, or were you guys just friends? How was the vibe?
The vibes. The vibe. So I'm down there. I'm 3 years older than my brother, and I get down to San Diego and I'm doing my thing, having a great time. Well, the coach also knows that my brother plays, and he goes up and he's recruiting my brother. And so my brother ends up coming on down. And we end up playing 2 years together. My brother redshirted his freshman year, but then my senior year, it was his sophomore year, whatever. because I was a fifth year senior, he ends up starting in center field for us. And so I ended up playing first base. I was originally recruited as a shortstop. Rapidly realized when I got to San Diego in 1982 that the shortstop they recruited was 26 years old. He was out of the Marines. This guy had shot bullets at other human beings. And I said, oh, this is what a man is. So I rapidly realized that if I wanted to play, I had to become more diverse. So I played every position in a college baseball game except for pitcher and catcher. And I played 3 positions in one game. So I ended up playing first base my senior year, and my brother ended up playing center field that year. And we won the first division. It's broke up in divisions out here, and it was back in NAIA days. We won the first division title for that. Our coach ended up going to the Western Regionals up in Portland, Oregon. Tacoma, Oregon. Tacoma, Washington, and had a great year, and it was awesome. Loved it. Yeah.
So liked playing with your brother, good experience.
Long answer to a question. We took that roundabout.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, we had a great time. We really enjoyed it. A lot of fun. My brother hit number 2 in the lineup. I hit number 3 in the lineup. My roommate was a leadoff hitter. My brother was number 1 in stolen bases in the league. I was number 2. My roommate was number 3. I should have been number 1 because I was thrown out one time and I wasn't out. Otherwise, I would have, I stole 29 out of 30. It should have been 30 out of 30. But anyways, that's a whole nother story. But yes, we love playing together.
Well, one thing that you did mention was how you played a ton of different positions in order to be able to play. And I think that's a super important point. And something a lot of student athletes who are graduating high school don't necessarily realize is if you want to play in college, play anywhere the coach wants you to play. Because I've played defense. I'm not a defender. I played forward. I'm usually a midfielder. So whatever my coach was like, Anya, you're playing this. I said, okay, because it was time on the field and that's what I wanted. So I think that that's great to remember is be versatile. So great point, Steve. But I also wanted to bring up, you did mention your dad played for the Red Sox. How was that growing up? Did you ever feel pressure to play in college or to play baseball because of that?
No, did I ever feel pressure? No, I didn't feel pressured. I wanted to excel. I wanted to do that. And I was always the little guy. I mean, growing up, I was the littlest. And so I had this inner beast. Being the little guy, you have little man syndrome. And so I had to ramp up my intensity, my angst, my anger, just to compete.
Yeah.
And so once I did that, like I said, if I mentioned earlier, 5 foot, 100-pound point guard, not very much use for that. But I did end up starting quarterback on the freshman football team at 5 foot, 100 pounds. So no pressure. No, I always wanted to. There's the old saying, you can be the hero or the GOAT. And if you want to be the hero, you have to be willing to be the GOAT. And I was always willing to be the GOAT because I so desperately wanted to be the hero. Yeah. So no pressure, just my internal pressure.
I love it. That's how I had to. I always had internal pressure from myself to perform. And I'm small too. I'm 5'2". So playing soccer as a 5'2" girl, I was like, I'm not playing Division I for sure. But even playing Division III, like we would play, like we played a couple highly ranked Division III teams. And I was like, these girls are 5'8", 5'9", 6 foot. I'm 5'2". So you really have to step up and you have to perform. And it's a different kind of like fighting, which is really fun. But that's interesting because I feel like if I had, let me track back. I feel like if I had parents who played sports, which I didn't, my mom, not the most athletic. Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Gail. The Plaskett side didn't really get the athletic genes, you're not saying anything. You said I'm not getting in trouble. So I was an athlete in my family, and I feel like if my parents had played a sport, I probably would have felt a little bit of pressure. But it's good to know that there wasn't any from you. But I want to remind my viewers watching and listening that this is my 10th episode of my Zoom series, After the Play Ends, Hanging the Cleats Up, and I'm joined with my uncle, Steve Napier. Let's go. And now I want to jump into a little bit more of how life was graduating from Point Loma. You're done playing baseball. How was that process moving on and transitioning to not being an athlete anymore?
So I was a PE major and a biology minor, and I wanted to coach in high school. That's what I wanted to do. So being an education major made sense. Mm-hmm. So I left the competitive field where I was performing, and I transitioned into a coaching field to where I was getting kids to perform. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of how I managed all that. I continued to play rec league softballs and this, that, and the other, and playing some rec league basketball and things of that nature. But leaving that ultra competitive environment that you've existed in for 10, 12, 14 years, whatever it is. Yeah, there's a switch that has to be thrown in order to survive, exist, excel, whatever you want, whatever term you want to use. And so, like I mentioned earlier, having to channel that inner beast in order to compete at a high level, sometimes you have to turn that off when you get out, because that can be very damaging to relationships and things of that nature going forward.
Yeah, for sure. When exactly would you say that you struggled the most? Was it right after you graduated? Was it a couple years after you graduated, or any time in particular where you were like, wow, I really miss competing?
Yeah, when I graduated, so I'm going to back up a little bit and give you a little history that I didn't realize until years later. But my senior year in college, I hurt my back, sciatica, had a thing going on. Well, little did I know that was the beginning of a genetic arthritic disease that I am so lucky to have, because it's about 1 in 200,000 people in the world have it. It's called ankylosing spondylitis. And so that set in when I was 23, and it's like an ice pick in your sciatica. So coming out of there, I'd hurt so bad. I said, well, wow, I can't do this anymore. This is not time to move on to a new chapter. So I really didn't struggle not being competitive in that environment. I can almost say that word anymore. Sometimes I feel like that choice was, well, first of all, I wasn't good enough to go to the pros. So there you go. So time to move on and grow up and get a life and go get a job. Yeah. So I kind of transferred into that. But the thing that I struggled with was that competitive fire that I had. Yeah. And transferring that, taking that into the workplace. Not everybody is quite as competitive as I was. And so a lot of times I could come off a little abrasive or aggressive. And so you kind of have to learn to temper that down. And that was the hardest lesson I had to learn. That took me a while to figure out.
Mm-hmm. That is something I've never thought about, because I'm an extremely competitive person as well. And I've never really had to think about what's going to happen with me being so competitive after not playing that sport anymore. Because baseball is a little different, but soccer, you can slam people to the ground. You're all over everyone. And that's like part of the reason I loved it, because it was so aggressive. So that's an interesting point, because I've never thought about that before. But how long did it take you to find that balance, would you say?
Oh, let's see. I've been working for about 38 years.
Just a...
Yeah, what I had to figure out was, is my aggressive nature, my aggressive attitude, is that going to hinder me going forward, or is that going to propel me to go forward? And you kind of have to figure that out. That's different for everybody. I can just tell you that early on, I was a firecracker, and a lot of people didn't enjoy that because I was go, go, go. If you get tired, suck it up, drink some water. We're going to go harder. And some people said, hey, man, you need to slow down a little bit. You're going to burn out. this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
But I was a head football coach at 2 different high schools in Bakersfield, as a head baseball coach at a high school here in Bakersfield. So as far as getting to where I wanted to go, I got there. Yeah, sometimes it was good. Sometimes it was I left a little destruction in my wake, but trial and error, man. Trial and error. You gotta go with your feelings, I guess.
Yeah. So what do you usually channel your competitive nature into now, besides coaching and being around?
Now at this point in my life, I'm kind of in I don't want to say cruise control, but I don't really get too competitive anymore. Every now and then I will
We're
doing
playing
just
games.
just doing something stupid, just something goofy. Sitting at the beach playing, basketball back and forth, just where it doesn't really even matter. Having fun and wanting to compete and wanting to crush Anya Soul, playing whack-a-mole on the beach or whatever. But yeah, as far as anything else, my candle on that is burnt out.
So how do you stay close to your sport now? Do you still watch baseball? Do you just channel that love for sports into other games that you watch?
So my love now is college football. And my favorite time of year is the late summer, fall. And my wife and I, we try to go to some college football games. We're big USC fans. She's a big Clemson fan. I'm also a Georgia fan. So it was a great year last 2 years. But we'll go to college football games, and I really enjoy sitting in my backyard on a Saturday afternoon, firing up the barbecue grill and just hanging out and watching my college football games all day. I really, really enjoy that.
Yeah, which is perfect because you can watch them anywhere. They're always on. You always have a connection to your sport, so it's super nice to just be able to sit back, relax, have some fun.
Absolutely.
So lastly, well, before I get to my last question, I wanted to quickly talk about how, what was I even going to say?
Andy Schaaf.
Yeah, perfect. You remembered for me. What episode with your daughter, Andy?
Yeah.
Exactly. Did anything surprise you when you watched it? Was there anything you were shocked to hear or anything like that from her episode?
No, we entertained the idea of her going to college to swim, and we had those conversations. We had a lot of those conversations. Her senior year was 2020, and it got cut short, as did everybody's. And so we had a lot of those conversations. And like she said, we took a couple trips back to Piedmont. We took a trip to Biola, a few other places. And she just kind of said, Dad, I think I'm done. I think I just want to go to school, and I want to be a journalist, an investigative journalist, and I want to do this, that, and the other. And I said, right on, man. Well, let's do it.
Yeah.
And so she went over to Arizona State to the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism, middle of 2020. That didn't work out well. So then she ended up heading back to Liberty, which is so far working out great.
Yeah. And I love it. And we talked about how if something's not right for you, there's always a better option.
Always.
But what I did want to end with was, do you have any advice for any current student athletes looking to play in college? I mean, you're around kids all the time. So is there any advice that you usually say to them?
So ironically, I started following Deion Sanders, Coach Prime of the University of Colorado. He just got the job there. And I've always loved Deion Sanders. Thought he was an outstanding athlete. Anybody can play pro baseball and pro football in the same day. That's pretty impressive. But if you start listening to the things that he says, he's bringing back those concrete, fundamental, foundational work ethic statements. Nothing's going to be given to you. You have to work hard for everything. Go earn it. That way they can't take, these types of things. And it's just refreshing to hear that that's coming back in style, when so much in today's world is, well, I just don't feel like it, or somebody else will give it to me, or this, that, or the other. And that's not the real world. That's not the way things work out. So if you are a college athlete in your senior season, or you're going to be heading to senior season, this is for 99% of us, this is it. So do everything in your power, gear up, suit up, boot up, and create your own environment and go get it, because this is it. And life as you know it is going to end, and then you're going to get to work for the next 40 years. So do everything you can to enjoy this last moment that you have.
Yeah. And I love that. And I love that advice is work for everything, because so many people have talked to me about, like, my generation specifically. They're like, your generation is lazy. And I'm like, I'm not. I don't know what's different, but I've always felt like I've always worked for everything. And like Andy's always worked for everything. And there's been certain people in my life who have always worked. But I guess not everyone does that.
My generation screwed up your generation. Let's not mix any words.
Not gonna lie.
So the ones, like you are saying, the ones that have grown up working hard. We had a ranch for 16 years. And the thing about a ranch is life never stops 24/7. You've got to, if you don't do it, then animals don't eat or things start to die. So I felt very fortunate that my daughter got to grow up in that environment. But for those of you out there, learn this lesson right now. If you show up every day and you outwork everybody at your office, your whatever it is, your environment, wherever you're at, if you outwork everybody, sooner or later, people will notice, and it will pay huge dividends for you moving forward in your career. Because there's a lot of people who are smarter than you, a lot of people who are more talented than you. But if there's nobody who's going to outwork you, then that will take you further than smarts and talent and everything else. A great work ethic and a good attitude. Two best things you can have.
I couldn't have said it any better myself. I love it. Great ending. Yes. Okay. Well, I'm going to let you go, Steve, but thank you so much for joining me today. And for everyone listening, this was my 10th episode of my Zoom series After the Play Ends.
I'm number 10. I'm a 10.
10. I did on purpose, obviously. Thanks so much for joining me, Steve.
You're welcome. I appreciate it.